نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. Islam has placed a great deal of emphasis on being clean and pure. And being clean, cleanliness and purity are not just important from a social perspective because of what people might think, but there are some very important religious and spiritual elements that are involved in our hygiene. So I use two terms. One is being clean and the second is being pure. The concept of hygiene in Islam covers both things. A person may be clean technically or apparently, but they may not necessarily be pure. And sometimes the opposite is true. So being clean means that generally speaking, there is nothing on your body that is visibly dirty. There's nothing about you, your body, your clothing that is apparently and visibly dirty or filthy. So if you have looked after that, then you have kept yourself clean. Then there's purity, tahara. And tahara means that we are clean from two aspects. We are pure from two aspects. One is from any apparent impurity. Islam has classified certain substances as impure. There are certain substances that are impure. So our body and our clothing must be free of those substances. If there is even a little bit of that substance on our body or our clothing, then we are considered impure. No matter how clean one may seem, but our salat would not be accepted. We would not be allowed to come into the masjid in that condition, and so on and so forth. So this is one aspect of tahara that every Muslim is very concerned with, to make sure. And this is why we have the whole concept of istinja, that after you relieve yourself, after you use the bathroom, there are certain things that must be looked after in terms of cleanliness. And water is necessary to use in order to remove impurity. Because paper, toilet paper for example, it will reduce the impurity, it will not remove the impurity. And that's why there's a great deal of emphasis on using water. So we should be in the habit of using both. Second thing is, sometimes a person has washed themselves, but some splashes have fallen on their body, on their clothing. We are responsible for that. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that these droplets that sometimes splash on a person's body or clothes, one thing is that it leads to doubts and suspicions forming in the mind. People who are constantly paranoid, double-minded, or have some sort of obsessive compulsive disorder, or they're constantly unsure of themselves, or they're constantly forgetting whether they did something or not. Being impure has a role in that for many people. That's why the Prophet ﷺ says, "Istanzihu min al-bawl, fa inna ammat al-waswasi minhum." Keep yourself pure from urine, because often the waswas, the doubts and the suspicions that come, they come from this. And the other hadith, fa inna ammat adab al-qabri minhum. At the punishment of the grave, many people will be punished in the grave because they do not keep their bodies and their clothing clean. Once the Prophet ﷺ passed by two graves and he said, إِنَّهُمَا لَا يُعَذَّبَانِ وَمَا يُعَذَّبَانِ فِي كَبِيرٍ. Both of the dwellers of these graves are being punished, even though they could have easily avoided that punishment. أَمَّا هَذَا, as for this one, فَكَانَ يَمْشِي بِالنَّمِيمَةِ, This one used to spread rumors. He was a talebearer, taking news from one side and conveying it to the other. The one conveying all the gossip, all the bad news, or all the negative things about one person, rumors. So he could have avoided it just by staying quiet. And the other one is being punished because he could not keep themselves clean from urine. So this is an extremely important thing for us. So this is one type of tahara that a Muslim is very much preoccupied with, keeping our bodies and keeping our clothes clean all the time. This applies to any condition. It's not just for the masjid or just for school. At any time, a Muslim will not be wearing impure clothes, and they will not be keeping their body with impurities on them. Right away they will wash it off and clean themselves. The second type of impurity is what we call hadath. Hadath is a state of impurity. Even though your body may be perfectly pure and clean, but you are in a state of impurity, and there are two states of impurity. There's a minor state and there's a major state. The minor state of impurity is when you have to do wudu. When you break your wudu, you are in a minor state of impurity. You can still enter the masjid, you can still recite the Quran from memory, and so on and so forth, but you cannot pray salat. You cannot pick up the mushaf and read it in that condition. So this is a minor state, hadath asghar. Then there's a major state of impurity. A major state of impurity is like when a person has a wet dream. So this is a major state of impurity, and now even if their body appears to be clean, the state that they are in is impure. Because of that state, they cannot recite the Quran, they cannot enter the masjid, they obviously cannot do any of the other things, they cannot pray and so on and so forth. So a Muslim, whenever they fall into a state of major impurity, which is called hadath akbar, they will never allow themselves to stay in that state for too long. Right away they will take a bath. The only way to purify yourself from that is by ghusl, by taking a full bath. And that bath involves washing every part of your body, so that not even a single hair remains dry. Washing the whole body, rinsing the mouth properly, rinsing the nose properly, then a person comes out of this state. So a Muslim will never keep themselves in the state of hadath akbar, of this major state of impurity, and a Muslim will try to avoid staying in a state of minor impurity as well. Why? Because first of all, the Prophet ﷺ tells us that purification is half of Iman. And the Prophet ﷺ has told us that every time a person performs wudu, the sins fall off of their body with the water. As the water drips off, the minor sins they have committed since the last time they performed wudu, they come out, so much so that sins of the eyes, they come trickling out with the water that drips off of your eyes. Sins come off from beneath your nails with those droplets of water. So Muslims are very diligent about making sure they stay in a state of wudu. When we are in a state of wudu and our body and clothing are clean, we are in a complete state of tahara. Now we are attracting angels. We're attracting the malaika. We're attracting good things. And when we are in any of those states of impurity that I mentioned, then we are attracting the shayateen. We're inviting shaitan to come and put thoughts in our minds, bad thoughts, bad ideas, and so on and so forth. So hygiene is not just something that we do just for the sake of looking good for other people. It could be that a person makes their appearance such that it is fine, it is presentable to other people, but they're still impure, they're still najis, like many people are. So tahara is a necessary aspect of our deen. Every single one of us should be familiar with the ahkam of tahara. And it's not something to laugh about, it's not something to be shy about. These are realities. Somebody told Imran ibn Hussein radiallahu anhu, it was a Jewish person, they were making fun, they were mocking, they were trying to mock Islam and trying to make fun of the teachings of Islam. They said, did your Prophet teach you everything, including how to use the bathroom? He said, yes, absolutely, he taught us how to do that. And these are the etiquettes that he taught us, because Islam is a complete way of life. It's a pure way of life. Today, there are many influential people, actors and singers and so on and so forth, that are actually running movements. Can you imagine? They are running movements for people to wash themselves after they use the toilet. They're saying this is one of the major causes of diseases. It's so disgusting. Popular people are doing this. In the end, people will come back and find how pure and how complete the teachings of Islam were. We don't have to wait to find out from some third source, from somebody else, that, oh, this is something we should be doing. We already have all of those teachings. So we should never allow ourselves to be in a state where our body or our clothing is impure. We should never allow ourselves to stay in a state of major ritual impurity, hadath akbar. And as a good habit, whenever our wudu breaks, we should try to refresh our wudu and try to stay in a state of wudu. This is the best condition. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to purify ourselves from outside and inside. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi.